right. There it goes. All right. There we go. So. So let's first question the conversation of, we're going to really kickstart your brain and ask, what did we cover 2 weeks ago?
Gossip.
Huh?
Gossip.
Yeah. Have you done any since the last 2 weeks ago?
No, I ain't talking about nobody.
That's good.
Himself.
Anything else?
I'm sorry, Dave, but I asked so much.
I know you're good.
Anything else we covered
It
2
was.
2 weeks ago? It's hard to stretch that far back and think about something, isn't it? We did talk about gossip.
Backbiting.
Backbiting. Anything else?
Overlook, don't let us sit in front of someone.
And if you can't say nothing nice,
Keep your mouth shut.
don't say nothing at all. Okay, so first, let's just abstract a word here. What does this word mean? Y'all tell me. What does this word
Stay away from
mean?
it. Don't do it.
Don't do it, yeah.
Okay, stay away from it. Don't do it. Anything else that you can think of that this word means? Anything?
Refuse to participate or do it.
Okay. Dictionary says that in a general sense, to forbear or refrain from voluntarily, but used chiefly to denote a restraint upon the passions or appetites, to refrain from indulgence. Now, we're looking at the word abstain. The next, I have one surprise word for you, though. Can anybody tell me what this word means? This was invented in Jonesville. Somebody in Virginia, I think, came up with this word.
The last one's on cook, was it?
Sure.
I don't know, Webster and these other dictionaries didn't put it in there, but what does this word mean? One of you Sunday school teachers need to use this in your class, and you'll have everybody sitting there really confused. Does anybody know what
I can't even
teetotalism?
pronounce it, let alone.
Teetotalism. Does anybody know what teetotalism means? This word we should have used in the church covenant. That's why I've got it on there. We should have used this word in the church covenant. Because this word means it's the actual practice of voluntarily abstaining from the consumption of alcohol. A person that practices or advocates is known as a teetotaler and is said to be teetotal. I'm sure you could use a real good tongue twister with these words if you just got it in there. But teetotalism is the actual practice of voluntarily abstaining from the consumption of alcohol. Somewhere they should have got this word in there. This would have fit real good. So tonight, as we move forward in what we're studying with the covenant part, we're going to our next piece and next section of what we're going to look at tonight, and that is the section that you have to abstain from the sale of and use of destructive drugs or intoxicating drinks as a beverage. Now, this is the very word straight off the covenant that we have in our bylaws as a church that we use. And tonight, to abstain from the sale of and use of destructive drugs or intoxicating drinks as a beverage. You know, the first thing we get down to with this, and this is horrible with anybody in churches right now in this day and time, is that the first problem we get to is what the word destructive is.
That's disruptive.
Now, there's a lot of things that to some people would be destructive, but others would say, "Nah, that ain't nothing. You can replace that. You can do that. That's not destructive." What really defines destructive? What are we really saying is destructive? Some people says if you make a bad mess, you can clean it up. You know, you tear something up, you can just replace it. That's not the consideration of destructive.
The destruction cause.
To the lot could be, but a lot of people look at destruction or being destructive as being something that's not what I'm going to jump to say is what we would call destructive. So the first thing you get down to, and this is kind of the way I do this, looking at it, and especially if I'm having any type of discussion with someone about anything to do with biblical standards or beliefs about destructive drugs or anything to do with alcohol. And that's the first thing is this. I can replace the car, I can build another house, I can fix something I tear up, but you cannot fully replace all the parts in your body. So when you literally go into acute total failure of some of your parts of your body, there's no replacing those things. So first way I go into discussion of destruction is when I am destructing something that is not necessarily going to be reversible, is not something that is able to be not only reversed, but able to be managed to some sort. And we'll look at some things to kind of explain that better here in a few minutes. But when we look at destructive drugs, we can go miles in all directions and say that some things are good and some things aren't so good. And just easy things. So, you know, ever since the beginning of time, humans has been using things such as herbs in nature. You know, people take certain herbs in nature for different medical problems. You buy garlic pills, ginger pills, you know, all that other stuff, goat's weed, all them things at the vitamin section at the store at Walmart. You know, there's a whole aisle of nothing but just vitamins down through there. Ginkgo biloba and all them other things that's on the shelf that we've been using for tons and tons of ages for different treatment and manages of the body for all kinds of reasons. But then you get into the fact of once something is, here's our key about destruction. Once any substance is introduced to the body, what is it doing to it? Now you got to think about that for a minute. No matter what you take, if you take a Tylenol, a Benadryl, if you take, you know, a vitamin C, let's just go that route, or a B12 vitamin, you know, when it enters the body, when it's introduced into the body, then it has an effect on the body. There, you know, unless you're taking pure placebo pills, which is fake with nothing, they do in clinical trials. That's literally an empty gel cap that you're taking with nothing in it. Unless that's what you're taking, anything you take into the body, any substance into the body, has an effect on with it at all. A lot of reasons people do take drugs is for different reasons to change their mental state. Or some want to escape and numb all of reality. That's a big one people do that causes a lot of substance use disorders. And so they've started studying very deeply now into a lot of things that what we get to the line. So when we get to looking at, and this is really going on in the church right now, this is what you see in churches. And the reason I'm bringing this to the attention is then we get to the fact of, you know, destructive drugs. That's one of the things that's a no-no in the covenant. We get into many many drugs on the list. If you just go down the list and look at all the medicines we have now, at what point does a drug become dangerous?
Make you addicted to it.
Okay.
When you take it.
Yeah. So if I bring you all a pill in here that you've never taken before, never had it in your life, you get out the side effects and the risks and the harmful effects and everything else, you know, that mile long list of problems you could have because you took it for one little thing. The question is, when does that become dangerous? And, you know, medicine studies this stuff all over the place. And one of the things that one of the very good doctors that does a lot of research in America says, that the very adamant statement that he makes all the time is the dose determines the danger. The dosage determines the danger. After some point, no matter what you ingest, at some point it will become unhealthy. That's just plain and simple. If you continue taking something, a drug, a substance, at some point it will become unhealthy. Now, I'm gonna give you just a few examples tonight and ask if anybody's ever heard of some of these specific substances that we commonly have right here in our area. Has anybody ever heard of kratom? Y'all might even have it growing on your corn. Huh? Kratom. Kratom.
What's that used for?
Huh?
What's it used for?
It's derived from tree leaves. Most of those, I think, come from another country, but tree leaves. And it's sold as a powder, most likely. What we've got around here, and powder was in the vape shops all the time. You see them packs of powder. And you can buy it legally over the counter. You don't have to have a prescription. You can walk in any of these vape stores that carry kratom and buy it. And what it does is it does the same thing that an opiate narcotic would do, heroin, hydrocodone, stuff like that. It does the same effect on the body, and it's a stimulant-like effect that it has. And there's not much study on it. There's very little known about it and what it does to the rest of the body and effect. There's no FDA approval for it, but a lot of people do it to help.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, a lot of people try to do that to help them with withdrawal from getting off of a drug. They use this because it counteracts the brain to think it's heroin or something else, and they take it trying to subsidize something out of the withdrawal symptoms. Huh?
Is it addictive?
Not enough information to really say that, but most people that do it become very chronic taking it. They do have, and I think it's more of it's just replace.
Like heroin a while.
It's replacing what they come off of, and it's obviously a lot cheaper than buying heroin or cocaine. So when you go to the gas station or the vape store and buy this pack of kratom and do it however often, however much you do, that is replacing an expensive drug and giving you somewhat of the same feeling effects of that drug. But some people do this to try to get off of other substances. But we have this. Yeah, if you take too much of it, I mean, we get them coming in the door with, a friend of mine that works at the hospital with me. She's in her 60s, works in our lab, and she'd been having some major nerve pain and problems. She's got a major back and hip issue, and one of our doctors told her to go buy something in the vape store that had that CBD in it, the cannabis derived, and so she went and bought it, and she took it. And she said, I felt really good. She said, I felt like it had really calmed my back and hip pain down. She said, I felt good. She said, but then I got paranoid that my grandson might eat the other half of the gummy, so I went ahead and ate it too. And about 2 hours later, she said that the ambulance was coming to pick her up because it developed what we know as hyperemesis syndrome. It is the most violent vomiting you have ever had in your life, to the point you're vomiting more than you breathe. And she thought she was dying. Literally thought she was dying, and she was pretty bad off at the point. But again, if she would have stuck to what he told her and not have gotten paranoid that the grandson would have got into it, she just put it up somewhere or something. But that brings on another problem we're going to talk about here in just a minute. And so here's just a simple thing that you can walk in a store, gas station, whatever, and buy a very common product. Most people that's not known into the world of substance abuse or other things have never heard of kratom. Delta 9 is another one that you can walk right in the stores in Middlesboro, anywhere you want to go and buy the Delta 9. And I have literally seen people that take that product that you can walk in the store, pay money for, and take home. I have seen them beyond safe to operate a vehicle and machinery,
It's the same effect as this.
or worse. The Delta 9. You have to look that up. It tells you all about Delta 9. But it's still in the form and direction of a cannabinoid medication. So in those classifications, the effects it's having is the dose. The dose is determining the effectiveness of how dangerous that it's really getting. And our ability to control that and our ability to control ourselves is another problem right there. Because how many people do you know that has ever took drugs or is on drugs that just took just enough and never did any more? Nobody. None of them do that. All right, now see if y'all have ever heard of this one. Okay, so here's one of the things. Do you know? I just want to ask y'all this because just in case any of y'all use this substance, you all got a substance use disorder? Anybody got this one? Somebody just raise their hand. But anyway, while she drinks it. So one of the biggest things about this one is that, you know, this is a psychoactive stimulant. Caffeine in itself is a psychoactive stimulant in the world. Yes, and it's found most commonly in coffee and tea, stuff like that. They add it to a lot of other drinks, sodas and stuff like that. Most people hit the energy drinks when they're tired and they're drowsy and they can't stay awake, stuff like that. As far as that goes, and one of the things is that it safely ingested very minorly is not much problem, but 1 teaspoon of pure powdered caffeine has enough in it to contain what it would take you 28 of those cups of coffee. And that will cause you to either go into a complete heart arrhythmia, you will have a seizure, or it will kill you. One of the three. Just from that. You know, these people that have energy drinks and over so much time their heart literally fails, it flops. That's exactly where that's from, is the caffeine substance toxicity. Same as the people that go into having seizures because they'll quit the energy drinks cold turkey and all of a sudden their body's used to having it. Now they crash. A lot of things like that. And then anybody know what YABA is? I didn't know this one. I had to look this up. YABA. This is something YABA. I called it YABA. I just recently learned of this one. State police has had people with this, and this is where they're combining toxic amounts of caffeine and methamphetamine together. They put them together. I don't even know what that would do to you, but it's called YABA, and they're already seeing cases of that going on. Now, here's one that's going to be very, very interesting to talk about for a moment. But can anybody identify this?
Tobacco.
Okay. What is in it? What does it contain?
Nicotine.
Nicotine. Huh?
Can't take all this stuff.
Yeah. So tobacco is addictive because of the nicotine, but the chemicals that's in or added to it is what makes it so deadly in most cases from studies from health. Because the chemicals that's put in it is usually your cause of your fatal lung diseases, cardiovascular disease. Some have traced it back to flaring other immunosuppressant problems and diabetes, things of that nature. And how many people do you think die a year because of smoking? A year. How many people do you think die every year because of smoking? Not anything else, just smoking tobacco. 500,000. 500,000 a year flopping in the grave because of smoking. 41,000 is people that died that never smoked in their life, but they were around the person that did. 41,000 people every year die from secondhand smoke. Over 7 million people die every year in the whole world. And then the vaping, we get into vaping and all that, that's other chemicals, whatever they're putting in those products with the nicotine. Okay? That is destructive. Do we not agree? That's a destructive the body, you're destructive. So just stopping at caffeine and kratom and nicotine, caffeine, these others. But let's just pull some biblical view for just a moment, because that's what everybody's going to hammer down on and say, well, you're going to have to tell me and show me where the Bible says. So this is how they go with that first. So I'm going to pull just a few simple examples. And the first thing that we know is that the Bible tells us, and Paul wrote it in 1 Corinthians 6, that your body is the temple of what?
Holy Ghost.
The Holy Ghost. And that you should honor God. Now, that's the big thing, is that you should honor God with that temple. And so, is it harmful to your physical health? Are you harming the temple that houses the Holy Spirit to be doing any of these substances that is destructive to the body? Think so? The next problem we get is when the bottom one, 1 Corinthians 6 and 12, when he says that all things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. So in other words, we should not be mastered by anything. So anything that leads you to dependency, let's use that word, anything that's addictive enough to lead you to being dependent on it, at that point, you're a slave. You're not. If you can't quit smoking because you are so highly addicted to nicotine or whatever else is the case, then you are dependent of it. And then the other thing that comes back is that, you can't by the Bible what we would call freedom in Christ. A lot of people say that being enslaved to something doesn't make you free in Christ. If you're housing into the temple is housing the Holy Ghost. That's one of the things that they look at in a lot of things. Now the next one really hurts even more. 1 Corinthians 10. Wherefore, whether therefore you eat, drink, or whatever you do it all to what?
Glory of God.
Yeah. So whatever we do should be done for the glory of God. And therefore, everything you see people doing that's destructive to the body, is it doing for the glory of God? Now I'm going to say this, and this is just plain and simple, but even that, what else does it say you're supposed to do in moderation? What else? Eat. If it's destructive to the body, Roger, if it's destructive to the body, we're supposed to do in moderation.
Oh,
In moderation.
depends on what I'm eating.
Well, that's true. That's true. You did have a salad.
Boy, I had disappointment last night.
I know. But you did have a salad.
Somewhere where gluttony is a sin. I
Yes.
think that's an Old
Yes.
Testament
Yes. Yes.
phrase to my mind.
So, just looking at it for what it is, and how many and how much of what it is, that just looking at the situation. Here's another informational number. Just in 2025 to 2026, 12 months, 70,000 people died specifically to that. And then if you look down those numbers statistically, how many people died from some form of substance abuse, which we have had harm reduction has seemingly worked through the health programs in America, because you see the numbers are decreasing continually. One of the things that is helping this that people do not agree with and people are not in support of is the needle exchange program. Does anybody know what the needle exchange program is? Y'all know?
I reckon it's keep on using dirty needles.
Yeah, so you come into the health department with your dirty needles and they give you clean ones. And they give you have to sit through an education course of some kind for an hour or two and whatever else they do. And they offer them resources for harm reduction. But they give them clean needles. What they have done just by doing that and giving out all these free clean needles is they've almost completely stopped the passing of hepatitis. They have got it down to such a minute number that it's no more populated as it is any other spread. For hepatitis in this, we're in one of the worst areas for hepatitis right now. This regional area right here, it's unreal how many people have hepatitis that they probably don't even know until something goes wrong or shows up. And just because of that, they, in harm reduction, by giving out all them clean needles, they have provenly stopped the transmission of HIV, the hepatitis, several other viral conditions and diseases has stopped just by being supplied with clean needles. Should we advocate to them to continue using drugs and shooting up? No. Some of that harm reduction program is to help offer them some things that they will get interested in to get off of them. But at the same time, we're trying to prevent spreading things to other people. And the reason this is also good for harm reduction, I'll throw this in there for a minute, is because if you have somebody doing drugs that throws their nickels down in the community park and the kid comes and picks it up, sticks themselves, now you got sprayed. You got a problem. Whereas if they know if they keep them in their container and they know if they don't let them out loosely and do whatever, and they bring them back to the health department to switch for their new ones, it stops the harm reduction to the actual general public at the same time. Now, what comes to mind? First thing you think over here, what comes to mind when you get down to discussing alcohol? It's casual. That's a good word. Other people look at it as celebration. Usually we have a drink because we're celebrating something or something is celebratory.
That's not what comes to my mind.
Huh? What come to your mind, Ginger?
Fighting.
Fighting? That's after the drink. I'm talking about before the drink.
Well, sometimes before.
Well, I mean, it could be, I guess. I don't know.
Who's
But-
gonna pay for it?
Yeah.
Comes with headaches, too.
I guarantee it. But one of the things I thought about, now, it would probably blow everybody's mind if you just did a little looking up and researching how many things you can research online about a Christian drinking alcohol. Do you think there's more in favor of it or more not in favor of it? Well, there's a lot of liberal people that doesn't give you an answer. That's what I'm going to say. They can define what drinking is and what it does and maybe what it should not do, but I would not. It didn't shock me to see it, but what did shock me is the number of pastors that won't give any direction. They won't answer on the matter. Some will say it's okay with circumstances. Others will say with restriction. Others will say this, but none of them will just consecratedly stick to something and stand on it. They won't do it. You would not believe how many new modern day churches and other areas that do that. We have pastors in churches right here in this area that drink alcohol. I can name them. Huh? Yeah, I can name them. I mean, they put it on Facebook. It's a picture of them holding up the bottle. So, I mean, it ain't like I'm calling out anything they didn't publicly tell. I can pull it up all day long. They publicly do it. All the church knows they do it. I guess people in the church may do it also. I don't know. But I'm just saying it's that publicized that they do. Now, in our covenant, it says, we're abstaining from alcohol as a beverage, the use of alcohol, and we'll start there with a beverage. The first word that came to my mind was the fact of something that a lot of people lack. There's a lot of people lacking of something that ties about that not using alcohol, and it's this very word. They don't have the wisdom. There's a lack of wisdom that is coming up when we get into people that want to justify. And I'm going to show you how we're going to justify in a minute about the drinking of alcohol. I'm going to show you some things and understand why in just a minute. But many people have dug up enough Bible to justify any reasonable return of why that they feel like it is okay to drink alcohol. If we just look at the word wisdom all over the Bible, it would blow your mind how much the Bible covers in the reference to the word wisdom. But one of the biggest things that it comes is on number 5 in Scripture theology. Wisdom is true religion, godliness, piety, and the knowledge and fear of God, and sincere and uniform obedience to His commands. Now, we can't sway in all directions and say it's okay for these to drink and these not to drink, or it's okay to drink this but not that. We can't sway. There's no double option here on this situation. So when we look at being wise, I'm going to ask you a few questions that's really debated about when people discuss about a Christian drinking beer. The first thing you need to think about if you're looking at reasons to say why you don't drink alcohol, it don't take that much to become intoxicated. How much do you think it takes?
somebody at Oak Tree.
Just how much do you think it takes?
That don't, for me now, it'll take that much.
Okay. According to medical science, and I'm gonna give you the blood alcohol concentrations, but a normal person, this 12-ounce can, this is 12 ounce. So this 12-ounce can would start giving you the impairment at 0.02. At 0.02, you'd feel slightly relaxed, but your multitasking abilities, visual tracking, and ability to track moving targets start to decline. Okay? 0.05, 2 drinks. Your coordination, judgment, and restraint are measurably reduced. Vision, while tracking moving objects and response times, slow down significantly. 0.08, the legal driving limit in many regions, because your depth perception, glare, recovery, and peripheral vision are visibly hindered. Reaction times become dangerously slow. And then on above, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse the more you do. But when we see these things, especially the content, Tennessee is 0.08. At 0.05 is about 2 drinks. So 2 of these, you're at already guaranteed to right at the limit of 0.08. But at 0.08, you've done went through multitasking, visual tracking, moving targets, coordination, judgment, and restraint. All these done went past before we get to 2 of these for the driving impairment. But we've got this much going on that it does not take much alcohol to become intoxicated. Okay? Now, what did the Bible say about intoxicating or drunkenness? What does it say about being drunk or drunkenness?
Time it justifies, he says to give strong drink to those who are about to perish.
Right. But what do you say about not being drunk, about being drunk or drunkenness? What does he say in there about not being drunk? We'll get there in just a minute. So we know that it takes very little to become intoxicated. If we're talking liquor, I think it's 1.5 ounces. About a shot glass is 1 ounce or 1.5 ounces, I think. And about that's all it would take to make you intoxicated. Very little. So dramatic impairment just from this simple casual drinking, It don't take much to get drunk. Another reason why that we don't endorse nor practice the drinking of alcohol is because there's plenty of other choices. Okay? You've got Dr. Pepper. There's your caffeine though. You've got Diet Coke. You've got sweet tea. You've got coffee. I mean, anything imaginable now, we've got it. There's plenty of things to drink that does not contain alcohol. Okay? And a lot of people are wanting to fight and say that, Jesus and the disciples drank wine, or Jesus turned the water into wine. And these are all New Testament facts. But this is where wisdom comes in, is we're going to learn why. This is where we're getting back to the ground basics of we do not practice the use of alcohol. What do you think people had to drink in the biblical days?
Water, milk,
And
Wine.
water, milk, and wine. Okay. Here's some easy examples. This was your choices in biblical days. Wine, of course, was staple, but it was much stronger, often heavily diluted with water, and they frequently mixed it with spices, honey, or drugs to enhance the flavor. Milk, however, no refrigeration would naturally sour and thicken, producing curd, so then they would drink it as a thin yogurt. The strong drink as a beer was where that they were doing in other areas where they brewed it from barley, dates, and pomegranates. Water, here's one of the bad ones, is that often scarce and unpalatable. They relied on cisterns, wells, and spring source fresh water, and then you had some fruit juices that they made also. But when we get right down to the thing of the many reasons why that they drank wine, one of the things that came up to that is because most of the water sources were so stagnated and unsafe that they had no choice but to drink with the alcohol. The alcohol in the wine, as high acidic as it was, could be diluted in the water to kill whatever was in the water. It was so stagnant and unsafe because you think about it, in their part of the world, Now, if I take you over there in that desert country, you don't have tons of springs and rivers and mountains and lakes and everything. You probably have ponding areas on desert grounds, still standing water. So without a cistern well or something to draw from, if you have nothing there, cistern well to draw from, you're drinking out of a still. I'll take you down here to the pond and we'll get you some out and see how much you want to lap it up and drink it. But in essence of saying that, that was one of the things when they took the wine and heavily diluted with the water was also a way of it killing out what they were digesting and taking. Another reason why you can easily use to say that we do not practice the ingesting of alcohol is because it is no longer necessary for medicinal purposes. In the Bible days, I'll give you the reasons of why that it was used. They put it on a wound with oil, burns, preventing infection. When the Good Samaritan treated his traveler's injuries by pouring on oil and wine. And then if you had belly problems, that's when the next one got into. The remedy was to take it in the New Testament when Paul told Timothy to use a little wine for the sake of your stomach, when he talks about the belly. These were medicinal uses of wine. Now let me ask you this. If you all go out this door and you fall down them steps, and I come in and say, well, let me go get my whiskey and some oil and let's rub it on it. What are y'all going to do?
No, that's gonna burn.
It's going to set you on fire. You ain't going to like it, are you? Now, if you've got a stomach problem and you're drinking a small amount, an ounce of wine to stop a stomach issue, and most of that in biblical days was parasites and worms because of what they were eating and drinking. But if you did that, that is not going to intoxicate you. It may kill out whatever's in your stomach causing the disorder, but it is not going to that was considered medicine. They don't have medicine. So today, here's another one you get. Another one. Pain relief or sedation. That was another one that they was using. Sometimes they used it to sedate those who were in extreme trauma or facing execution. That was one of the things that they used to use. And then it mentions about in Proverbs. Then natural sources were frequently stagnant and contaminated with bacteria. It was added to the water as a disinfectant, reducing the risk of waterborne disease. This was why that wine was used so widespread. You only had 3 options over there: water, milk, wine. There were some mentions of vinegars, but I don't know that they used them to drink them as they did the wine. So when we look at that, now I'll just give you an example in Proverbs. This is what Roger was just saying a minute ago about giving a strong drink unto him that is ready to perish, and wine unto those that be of heavy hearts. You know, some use this very verse about justifying drinking alcohol. But how can we counteract the proper way to deal with depression? If you've got somebody that says, well, I drink alcohol because I'm depressed.
And get a depressant.
Huh?
And get a depressant. I can't even say.
It usually makes it worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking.
There's,
I reckon that's different with different people.
Oh, yeah.
Some it does make them more depressed.
yes, but there are so many other antidepressant medications out there to help people with a condition that there is no need of excessive consumption of alcohol to attempt to do something that medicine evolved has created something to manage. Here's another one in 1 Timothy 5:23. Drink no longer water, but use a little wine for thy stomach's sake and thine often infirmities. Here's another reason that if you have, okay, let me ask y'all this. If you get a very bad upset stomach tonight, or you think you've got the diarrhea lettuce issue right now with the cyclospora, because we've got cases all around here right now with it. If you've got the explosive diarrhea from the lettuce that's going around, and you think you've got that, what are you going to take for it? Yeah, anything else?
What do you think?
Pepto-Bismol.
What the doctor says.
Yeah, huh?
Tell the doctor, okay, what's good? Tell him.
Yeah, Mylanta, huh?
Imodium.
Imodium. But you see, we directly don't go, I need wine. I need alcohol for that. I need wine. Now, if I put you back in biblical days and you've got the diarrhea lettuce condition, what are you going to say? somebody bring me some wine. I got to kill this out. That's all there was. That's all they had. They had nothing else than that one medicinal purpose for it and how much they drank. But none of you now are going to decide with your diarrhea that you're going down here to Boone's to buy a fifth of liquor to stop the diarrhea. I promise you it's not going to do what you think it's going to do. I promise you. So, receptively, modern times and involvement of medicine has changed the logistics of how we as humans even work to medicinally help our bodies. The next thing that we get down to with alcohol, if you want another reason about why that we do not practice the consumption of alcohol, is because of the horrible word that it is addictive. Now, I know plenty of people that tell me all the time that I can stop when I want to. And you know what I always tell them? I said, well, go ahead and do it.
First, that's the law.
I know, but they always say, I can stop when I want to. I said, okay, right now. Stop. Just go ahead. Since you can, do it. I've had
If you want to stop, you gotta stop.
yeah. But there's so many people that tells me I can stop whenever I want
I
to.
went there.
Why can they not stop when they want to?
Addictive.
They are dependent. They have become dependent on it.
The addiction is dependence.
Yes. So then, now, they're a slave. We're going back to our verse. They're now a slave to what their body has become dependent. And he even said in 1 Corinthians, all things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. And all things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. Now let's go to another one. Can anybody else give me a good reason before I add any more of good reasons why that the practice of drinking or consuming alcohol is not a Christian's job description? It's not subjective for the Christian. Any other reasons you all can give me before I give you some more?
Causes a lot of divorces.
Okay. Any others?
Changes the mood,
Okay.
the person's mood.
Okay. Any others? I'm gonna give you a hard one right here. All right. How many people drink because their parents drank? A lot. Let's just say that one of you all in here are a therapeutic drinker. I'll call you a therapeutic alcoholic. It's for your medicinal purpose. But because your child saw you drink, they started, and now they're an alcoholic. Are you not to blame for that? Is that not partly yours to blame?
Mm-hmm.
If they're in your house and you're drinking, and then they start drinking and become an alcoholic, are you not partly to blame for that? Or, let me ask you this one. If you're an alcoholic and your kid, 17, 18 years old, gets in your stash and drinks all your beer, liquor, whatever you got, they go get in the car and they hit and kill somebody. Who's that on? The example that was set right in front of them. That's the problem when we get into it. And some says all the time, well, that will never happen. That'll never happen. Well, there's a lot of people that, well, Missy that was here from the Bethany's Hope will tell you that she said that very same statement. That'll never happen. But her own child shot and killed herself with her own gun. But if you asked that before it happened, Missy would say that will never happen. She will never do that. Same thing with all these other situations. But setting that example, that's a big, hard limit for one. And then it gets worse. Anybody else got any more before I give you one that's worse than this? Okay. Here's another that's worse. You are not any more effective at soul winning if you drink. But if you don't, you can be a lot more effective if you are not dependent on a substance. If you you can easily be more effective.
Could you be
Someone.
effective trying to tell someone about Christ and they could smell the alcohol in your breath?
And a lot of people would call you a hypocrite
Mm-hmm.
right off the bat. They would. That's why a lot of people won't take to people that have those problems unless they have completely became sober, recovered, and have made a flip, a full turnaround, 180 in another direction because that very thing. Does it not? Okay, I'm gonna ask y'all this. You all go to eat in restaurants. People eat out all the time. Roger should be on Food Network. Okay, he could tell them all the details of all them places do. But if Roger, now I'm gonna use him as an example. So you all go over to Middlesboro and eat, and you go in and sit down, and Roger's sitting over drinking him a beer while he's eating his hamburger. What does that immediately change in your mind?
He ain't what he said he was.
That old hypocrite sitting over there drinking that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you're getting to the hard ones. I mean, what would run through your mind? Or you go in to eat and you go over to Millsboro and eat, and Steve and Teresa's in there sitting there having wine with their meal. They're celebrating their anniversary and they're having a full bottle of wine. They got the cups full. They're having wine. What would run through your mind? What would run through your mind?
You shouldn't be doing that.
They shouldn't. Yeah.
Bad testimony.
Huh?
Bad testimony.
Okay.
Would also kind of dampen your spirit on wanting to listen to him preach.
Why?
Because he's actually, by him, I don't know, I think he's talked on drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And here he is sitting and drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how can I believe what he's telling me
Mm-hmm.
if he's doing opposite of what he is preaching?
Uh-huh. Yeah. That's why I said, what would run through your mind? What would it take to you to walk in? And this is happening. I can probably take you to some places tonight and show you some church members I know that are in other churches that are sitting right now in a restaurant drinking beer tonight. I can take you there. Full evidence. I've got friends in other churches that will tell you they have people that drink alcohol regularly that are active attending church members. And it's almost like we've segregated ourselves from them. It's almost like going back to the days of the whites and the blacks. It's almost like the church people have kind of just set them over there in the corner. You know, we've done our thing, but they're still coming and doing that. Now I'm going to ask you a real good one. Now, if we do that like that with anything that destructively is, I got two questions first. Let me ask you these two. What part of drinking alcohol edifies anything that glorifies God? Nothing. What part of drinking alcohol is profitable for a man to do it? What's it profiting? Nothing. So we can wipe them two, huh? So we can wipe them two out. Now we've talked about this so far: the destructive drugs and the use of alcohol. I got one more for you. We're looking at this one right here. What do you think this means? To abstain from the sale of alcohol. What does that mean?
Don't be making no moonshine.
Don't be making no moonshine. But it may be medicinal. It may be medicinal. People got a cough. You got to give them something. But what does that mean?
I mean, what it says.
In 2026, what does that mean?
To a lot of people, nothing.
Huh?
To a lot of people, nothing.
Yeah, but I'm just asking from a standpoint of it's in the covenant and that's what you're contracted to. What does that mean?
Means you're not supposed to sell it.
In what way?
I mean,
Okay, are we saying, huh? Did you say that? Contribute? Okay. Well, are we saying that as a business owner? Are we saying that as it's your only job and source of income and that's your job and they dispense alcohol? I mean, and I'll just give you an example, Cracker Barrel. You know, they serve beer right on the table.
Yeah.
With your chicken and dumplings. Or grits and gravy, whatever you order. So, by the covenant, are we saying that you cannot work there? Because they sell alcohol and you yourself would be handling it to the table? What do we say about that?
well, I don't think that a Christian should take the alcohol to the table to contribute to maybe someone getting hurt because they become impaired.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a firm believer that if you do the will of God, He will find you another job.
Yes.
Sure. Sure.
I will take care of it. As a servant. And that's why I lost my job at Cracker Barrel, because I was serving somebody alcohol.
I wouldn't either.
But looking at it from a church standpoint, what if they work at Food City,
Well, like I said,
Kroger's? They sell alcohol. Rick Turner worked there for blue million years over
They
there.
got their separate store.
That's why I'm asking, where's the line? What do we say the line is to abstain from the sale of alcohol?
See, when I worked at Chris, they didn't have the liquor,
Mhm.
liquor there.
What do y'all think? What does that mean? That's the very words. Sale of and use of destructive drugs or intoxicating drinks as a beverage.
There's stores up there, but there's one store specific that does not sell.
Mhm.
Will not sell.
Right.
I mean, he's holding true to
Mhm.
his belief, that anything in the store will not have alcohol.
well, that was not
I've heard other people say that on stores, and they sell other things, and they say that I make more money off of milk and bread than I do alcohol, and you know, they done committed another sin they lied to.
Oh, sure. Because the milk and bread truck ain't delivering near the amount of bread and milk that the alcohol truck's delivering. Say, well, why is the trucks two different sizes? But when we look at this, and there's been some controversial times in churches that some people have really got down into the wire on this because of the whether that is you as an employee are doing your job, or if you as the business owner is selling something to people that is promoting such destructive issues, and where that line is, and what people feel like that line segregates itself to. Because that is the very wording of the covenants, the sale of and use of destructive drugs and drugs. Okay, Ginger goes and decides she's going to get a job, and she goes to Kroger's and gets a job as a cashier or a bagger. Let's just use one of them easy ones, a cashier or a bagger. But the people coming through her checkout lane are buying alcohol. What's her thoughts there?
Most people would say, well, everybody's gotta work. Yeah. And they just kind of brush it off.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, like I say, people just don't hold true to the fact that Lord will provide your every need.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're showing just how weak of faith that they are.
Yeah. Ginger should be praying to take me to produce.
That's what I
Put
said
me-
you're thinking.
Put me in the produce department. You know, but that, I mean, literally, that's where you're at. And now you really have more businesses and restaurants that sell it than don't.
Mhm.
So for anybody that works in a job of either of the two, they're going to be in that place where that is acceptably done. Whether they're, like I said, serving alcohol to a table, or if they're running it across the floor on the register, or whatever the case may be. Whether or not it's intended to be something. Now, if I want to go farther with this from the sale of and use of the drinking alcohol, then the no would be that you give it to someone else, sell drugs or something to someone else. Anything that's now becoming something you're handing off that's destructive to that person, now you've got another problem. That's another line that we can say is not permissible. But there's a lot of places that's getting to the point to where there's not really anywhere that they can work that don't have it in the building somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So they're having to back up on that. Used to, you wouldn't find alcohol. We had what, 1, 2 beer stores? Is that it? We didn't, and nowhere else sold or bought beer or liquor. There wasn't nowhere else to get it.
I know where I had to go to Tazewell or something.
That's what I'm saying. So there wasn't. Was there anything up there?
By the time
Yeah,
I
there's
got there.
several, seem
Had-
like for years,
Yeah.
all the convenience stores had it.
We didn't
I
have.
say there's one grocery store for all I know of it, don't.
Yeah, but we didn't have it for what? It was a long time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There was none.
Everybody
Except one.
Middlesboro say, we're going to Pappy's.
Yeah, they had to drive over here to Tazewell, and that was the only 2 places to
I
get it.
know it, Middlesboro was dry.
Now it's
Time.
saturated.
Mhm.
We're past wet. We've got plumb soaked because it's in. Like I said, Cracker Barrel's feeding them with their chicken and dumplings with alcohol. Now that brings me to the fact of if you go into if you go into Cracker Barrel, this is before alcohol, but if you go into Cracker Barrel and you see some of your church members drinking alcohol, what's that? What goes through your mind? Or what if you go out to Walmart and you come back in the parking lot and you see one of your church members doing a drug deal or taking drugs? What runs through your mind?
Well, you mean shooting up or what?
Either one, or selling it.
Well, first of all, we're not supposed to judge,
Okay.
but I will shoot up. Go over and talk to them and see. And maybe give something else a shot.
Mm-hmm. Could be. The one thing that's so adamant in my mind about this is that we get so hard lined on certain things. You know, we get hard if someone come in here, one of our church members come to church on Sunday morning so high that they were out of it, sitting on the pew right in the middle of service, just out of their mind high. Or if they come into church on Sunday morning after being out all Saturday night drinking, and they are like fish drunk in here laying in the pew. You know, our mindset is so different. But what amazes me about that is that we have no view that I see in churches. We have no view about anything else that's destructive. So we say nothing to people that smoke. The effect that it has on secondhand people. And I'll give you the example here. We've discussed it here before. So all the people that don't smoke walk right out on the porch where all the people do smoke. You see the destructive problem there with secondhand issues. Or you've got somebody that's got severe bronchitis, reactive airway disease, and they go out there and breathe that smoke in, it's done. We got a problem. So what about smoking? Why we don't flash the fire at the thought of smoking like we do alcohol or destructive drugs?
No backbone from the pastors.
Uh-huh.
Now, Michigan, church we belong to, anybody smoke was not considered candidate for a deacon.
Couldn't be a deacon? Nope.
And their pastors told them, there was no smoking on the porch.
Yeah.
You want to do it in your car.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him.
They did, I mean,
So tell them no. Yeah. But we don't, you see how we're programmed in this day and age. We're not looking at smoking as being anything. But them people have got more health problems and way more issues than a lot of alcoholics.
Mhm.
Seriously, they do. But we don't look at that destruction of the body, the destruction of the temple, or the effect of the smoke to others who are walking out there through it. We don't put that out. So covenantly looking at things and looking at abstaining from sale and use of destructive drugs or intoxicating drinks as a beverage is a hard line drawn. But the fact of if they are dependent on it, this is the way I look at it. If they have become dependent on the substance, it doesn't have to be a drug or specifically alcohol. But if they have become dependent on it, a slave to it, and it is not in any way profitable or glorifying God from their body, then it's wrong. It just sets itself right there, plain and simple. It's wrong. It's set out. Now, I will tell you, in my opinion, this is not Bible, but I will tell you my opinion. We said that the Bible says that you're supposed to eat in moderation. Now, I would rather have the fat person driving at me in a vehicle than I would the drunk. If you think about it, there are some goods and some bads. I'd rather have the one that didn't eat in moderation coming at me at a high rate of speed in a vehicle than I would the one that's completely drunk. But the drunk is not the problem as much as the state that it's putting them in and the destruction that it's doing and the complete dependence that people get on. I do know places I have a friend that one time we went to a church service, and I did not know this, but one of the preachers in the revival was outside smoking. And we went into the church service, and then he got up to preach. And he started this coughing scheme. I thought he was going to cough up part of his lung and his leg right before he started to preach. And the one of them that was with us, he got up and left. He won't sit under it. He said, I'm not sitting under nobody that's out there smoking 1 minute and in here preaching against doing things to your body and sin and everything else. He said, I'm not doing it. He said, they can pick one and not the other all they want. But he left. He would not sit under that man because of the fact that he was out there smoking 1 minute and in the building. Smoking used to be, I guess, looked at as a pretty, what a word here, rough, straight line thing. They did they not really do it at the churches? You didn't see people smoking, is that right? Yeah. I guess that's one of the hard limit lines for some of them is that they looked at. But no matter what the substance is, the drug, alcohol, tobacco, caffeine, you know, once you're addicted to anything or substance dependent on it, the destruction of the body is where we're getting to the line of that's when we've got a problem. That's something we're going into covenant that we're not going to do. And because I love it when Roger or somebody wants to pray over the food and say, and bless this for the nourishment of our bodies. And we look down and there's the biggest load of cholesterol meat on the plate and, you know, the completely saturated oil potatoes. And he just asked the Lord to bless it for the nourishment of our body. There is absolutely no nourishment coming from that plate at all. At all. So, I mean, you got to look at some things, substandard things here. Got to make it right or not. But looking at the covenant and looking at what we have in there to abstain from, the sale and use of destructive drugs or intoxicating drinks as a beverage. A lot of this goes back to, I think some of this goes back to examples. I think that at home, it was never a no. If they find it to be justified, acceptable, then it couldn't have been a no somewhere. The no never came out somewhere. And so we find that as we move along parts of the covenant and things that are in their upbringing that very well, what would happen if let's just use Roger and Robert. They went out one night and said they was going to the store and they come back with a full case of beer and they've done drunk eight or 10 of them before they get back to the house. Now what your dad gonna do?
You probably wouldn't let us in the house.
So-
Just sleep outside.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, you know, it's mindful of things to know, but I think it's more important in the whole argument of people justifying drinking alcohol. I think it's more important that we understand enough about biblical times, Bible days, and history to learn why that they drank the wine. Why did they do the things they did? The miracle of turning water into wine has nothing to do with the fact that they needed alcohol to drink at the party. The very problem could have been that the water outside there was the sewer line. You know, they may have been needing to have something to drink at this party and have nothing but straight sewer out there in a stagnant pond where they've been using it for a toilet and they have nothing else to do. So there's a lot of things we don't grasp and get out of our thinking process that Bible history teaches us that of reasons why. Well, they didn't have the medicine. They didn't have other options. There wasn't anything else to get. And so in the long run of it, that's one of the things about that they only had. Anybody else got anything tonight?
First church my dad ever pastored, deacon, they had the Lord's Supper.
Mhm.
He went out and actually bought a bottle of
Wine.
wine. Yeah.
Mhm.
That evening, one of the little ladies from the church said she had a headache all that afternoon.
From the real wine.
She really got
Yeah.
sauced.
Yeah. That was some real wine there somewhere. Yeah.
She was a teetotaler.
There you go. Don't forget that word. But just
Think about, like I say, I think the reason why the back is kind of, it was more of a thing against, you know, your own body.
yeah.
It was self-induced, long-term.
Mhm.
Like I say, you smoke a whole carton of cigarettes and you wouldn't, you know, be impaired.
Right.
But alcohol, like I say, as soon as it enters your bloodstream, it goes to effect, like you say.
Right.
Just do 1 or 2, and it's automatically starts impacting.
Yeah.
And smoking, like I say, my dad smoked before when he was a young man, and he just quit smoking. He said he quit smoking, but he didn't quit, he just swapped chewing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's still getting addicted to, you know, still getting addicted and everything like that. But it never, you know, he was fortunate he didn't ever have no mouth cancer or anything like that.
Yeah.
Some people with face, you know,
Mhm.
mouth stuff, cheap.
Yeah.
Tobacco, you know, at nicotine, like I say, can be real addictive.
Mhm.
Because we used to put up tobacco. And Raj got nicotine sick, he was wet tobacco.
He absorbed it.
Poison.
Yeah.
And it made him sick as a dog.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Handling that wet tobacco, his whole side turned numb, where he had that up
And,
against.
you know, it's like they say, everything, whole world starts spinning,
Mhm.
you're sicker than a dog. It's like somebody trying to smoke it for the first time.
It will get you. That's what you gotta say is it will get you. I just
Say, well, not that long back, you know, tobacco used to be a cash crop for farmers. That's what they grow.
Yeah.
My grandpa raised tobacco.
Yeah.
And that's all they had.
Mhm.
That's all I had to make a living with, sell.
Yep.
Now it's gone.
Manufactured, processed, everything else. Somewhere way out. Yeah. Anybody else got anything tonight? Sunday, Roger's gonna have a deacons meeting about the qualifications about being a deacon. He's gonna have to tell them they can't drink, can't smoke, can't chew. He's updating it. They want to smoke, they gotta go to the car. But they couldn't smoke and be a deacon, right? Anybody else got anything?